The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. This is a quote from Sun Tzu from the book Art of War. The Hayabusa was born back when building the fastest bike on the planet was a war which it won. Decades later, it is now in its third generation. Welcome to Express Drives.
Over the past few years, I've been lucky to have test ridden and reviewed a lot of motorcycles. But today we're talking about the Falcon. Not many motorcycles are as aspirational as this one. No matter what I say here, if you want one of these, you're going to get one of these. And that's the reason why the first and the second batch of the Suzuki Hayabusa 2021 model have been sold out already. So more than a review, we're trying to celebrate a brilliant machine, born in 1999 and updated only once ever since. And this is the third generation. So what all has changed and what all is new? So the 99 model was powered by a 1299cc engine that made 173 brake horsepower. The 2008 upgrade got a bigger engine, a 1340cc inline 4 that made 195 brake horsepower. Now, fans and prospective customers around the world had been expecting Suzuki to stick to that trend, and there were speculations that it would get a bigger engine and power figures that would be up north of 200 brake horsepower. But Suzuki decided not to bother with any of that and retained the older 1340cc inline 4 with the same bore and stroke. But the Japanese manufacturer did promise that the new 2021 model would have faster acceleration so that the true Hayabusa experience could be retained. And to say the least, it is. For this, the pistons have been upgraded, the camshaft redesigned. Among other changes, it gets a new slip and assist clutch and the gearbox has been tweaked as well. Also, the third generation Hayabusa is about 4 kilograms lighter. On paper, the numbers may look smaller, but they just do not matter once you open the throttle. The Hayabusa just has so much to give, so much torque that you could go from 45 kmph to 200 and it wouldn't matter what gear you're in. So there is a range of subtle changes that have been made. But considering that Suzuki made the brave decision of sticking with the same engine and lesser power means that we need to indulge into the facts about what those changes translate into when it comes to real-world performance. And hence we need someone who has ridden the previous generations and spent a considerable time with the second gen. And so I would invite my colleague Arpit to explain some more. Arpit, where'd you go?
Hey Abhilasha.
Hey.
So yeah, I mean a lot of changes have been made, and like you pointed out, yeah, it looks sharper, it's a little bit lighter, but talking about the weight, some of that weight loss has been offset by this hideous looking license plate holder and the sari guard that is mandatory. So a little bit of that has been offset by that. But yes, coming to the main changes, the engine, less power, it's not any slower.
Right.
It is actually quicker on these roads because what Suzuki did when they went to Euro 5 and lost some power in the process, they sacrificed the top end and bolstered the lower end and the mid range. And that is what you need in everyday riding conditions. And that's why now, if you talk about in-gear acceleration or when you're out on the streets, this Hayabusa is considerably quicker than the previous one. And that makes it a little more fun and a lot more engaging.
Yeah. So, but would you say that in the top end, like you said, it's slightly slower than the previous generation? Is that possible?
Not really. I mean, see, even the earlier one was limited to 299,
right,
and this one is. Now, until and unless you're taking it right smack up to the bloody top end, I think that is where you might feel a difference. But being a rider with average skill like we are, I think I'm not qualified enough to extract the entire power and lay it out on the road. But that said, when you start off, yes, in the lower revs, this feels a little more quicker. It's got a little more zip. Between 4 to 6,000 RPM, well, that's when you start feeling that yes, it's a super bike that you're riding. And once you go past 6,000 RPM, that's when things start to become really quick. And once you go past about 9,000, well, that's when the warp mode gets engaged.
Yep.
The world turns into a blur. So it still has that legendary Busa character, no doubts about it. That said, it is softened up a bit, and while armchair internet activists might say that, oh no, it's not good, it's bad, but out in the real world, it doesn't matter.
Right, like you said, 9,000 RPM and it goes into warp mode. I think that's the thing about Hayabusa, it makes going into the warp mode easy. Now speaking of easy, this 2021 model now has an array of electronics which it didn't before. So would you say that it's lost some of that scary edge that a big bike's supposed to have?
The electronics, yes, it's a big jump. I mean, finally the Busa has stepped into the 21st century with the new electronic aids that it gets, and there are lots in it. So yes, it's far more easier to ride. Even the seat has gone lower, so it's much more manageable. And yes, when I was riding the second gen Busa, that was a bit scary to ride because all you had was ABS.
Right.
Nothing else to save your skin. This one, yeah, it's got loads of electronics, which of course Abhilasha will speak about. But yes, it does not make it lose the edge. It's just easy. And I would say, while some people will say it's softened up, it's lost that edge, I think a manufacturer not including things just to keep it raw, that's plain stupid. Why not use the technology when it's available?
Right.
And that means even a rider with average skill can now enjoy the Busa without being intimidated. And that's what I really love about this motorcycle. It's really easy to ride.
Now, as much as excited I am to be riding this, I was also a little concerned about being on such a huge machine with so much power. So the other Suzuki big bike that I rode was the GSX R1000, and this was the older one with the K9 engine, and that motorcycle was seriously scary right from the very beginning. So is this after 9,000 RPM maybe, but the GSX R1000 was like, there's so much power and I'm gonna punch you in the face. That's what the attitude was like. But the attitude that the Suzuki Hayabusa has is different. It's like, see, I've got yay much of power and I'm going to give all of it to you. There you go. It's more civilized about things, and it is nearly as comfortable as a cruiser. So the wheelbase is not as petite as a super sport would have, but it does look like a full-fledged sports motorcycle. But then it promises comfort as well, nearly as much as a cruiser. And that's what this is. It is a highway cruiser, so you can spend miles and miles on the saddle and not have any complaints. Now this is a sizable motorcycle and you have to be really careful. I was just having a chat with Arpit as well about this. You have to be really careful when you're really slow, perhaps pulling it in and out of parking, because there's just a lot of weight to work around. And if you're someone like my build, you'd probably have to be more careful. But once you set off, this is a really easy machine to be on. It's a comfortable place to be on. The seat cushion is also very soft. And it gets top-notch KYB adjustable suspension, and it has been set to a plusher side. We got through some potholes, some really bad roads, but it doesn't really feel like you're sitting on a big sports motorcycle. It takes it quite well. Now moving on to the brakes. Now in my conversations that I've had with people who've experienced the previous generation, they said they did not really like the braking on that bike very much. But now Suzuki has upgraded the 2021 model with Brembo's Dilemma braking hardware, which means it now stops on a dime.
The Hayabusa left me in a wide-eyed surprise as to how nimble it is. It handles pretty much like a little 250 through city traffic. So much so that I have to remind myself that it is substantially wide. If not like a super sport, it is really quick to switch directions. It makes you feel confident that you can lean it further on corners. Another small change that makes a big difference is that the handlebar is slightly closer to the rider, which translates to better control and a little more upright seating stance. Tall riders may feel cramped with the riding position, but my humble 5.5 feet fits it just fine. Also because it has a super low seat height of just 800 mm.
So the new Hayabusa gets the complete Bosch 6-axis IMU package, which means it gets traction control, wheelie control, ABS of course, and also a very sophisticated launch control, which lets you launch at 4000 RPM or 6 or 8000 RPM if you are capable of it. And also the instrument cluster has been upgraded and now it looks much better than before and it has more of a cockpit appeal going on to it. Right, we did not talk about what the motorcycle looks like. This is becoming quite a habit with me. Whenever I get a performance motorcycle, I end up talking about the design in the end. The last time it happened with the Panigale, which is achingly beautiful, but the Hayabusa on the other hand, I reckon keeps function over form. There is attention to detail and most of that detail revolves around aerodynamics. It is in fact more aerodynamic than the previous model. It's got some sharp lines, especially on the front end, the nose, which looks a bit more like the GSX R1000. But it also retains some round lines from the previous generation. But overall, it has that Hayabusa appeal that we've all been such a fan of. Considering what a legend this motorcycle has come to be, in its 2021 model, it hasn't really turned into a swan. It's never been a great looking motorcycle and it isn't still. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. If you think of yourself as a serious motorcyclist, your experience may be incomplete if you haven't ridden the Hayabusa. If you're thinking, why are we making such a big deal out of this motorcycle? It's the fact that this motorcycle is a big deal. Not much gets close to the Hayabusa when it comes to setting a standard in the motorcycle world, which this did decades ago, and it is still building upon it.
Riding the Hayabusa for the very first time felt like a graduation party to me. It is stupid fast, yet it is comfortable. If you never ever want to give up on the super sport kind, no matter how old you are, the Hayabusa can let those dreams stay alive.
This may be a very subtle upgrade to what the Hayabusa has been since the very beginning. This is in its best form now. I'm very glad to be riding this one as my very first Hayabusa, and I was a little nervous, to be honest, but this just gives you so much confidence. That's the best thing about this motorcycle. It is big, it could look intimidating to you past 9000 RPM. It is intimidating. But below that, yep, it's easy peasy. Just be a little careful around tight bends though. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and for anything and everything auto, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bye-bye.